Alright, well welcome back. Welcome back to Football Vision. Every Tuesday, 7:30, come what may, whatever the day throws at you. Whatever you got to deal with. You're going to get through Tuesday because you know at 7:30 there's going to be some Football Vision live stream. And that is going to make the evening. Should we jump straight in, or shall I tell you what happened with my media team this week? I think I should focus on... I think I need a recruitment team. Because the candidates coming through on media, I don't know if they're cheating in the interviews. I don't know if they've been using AI behind the scenes. I spotted a couple of them looking away from the camera, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. Yeah, but the candidates coming through, they're just... Yeah, they're all mouth. They're all walk and no talk. So perhaps we need to focus on recruitment. Anyway, we've got the same Harris Heller stream beats. We've got the same logo. But that's okay, because the chess is the content, right? Not the colours, not the layout. It's the chess. And here we are with 1e4 against Nerigers 37. If you're interested in featuring on the stream, if you want to be part of this wonderful chess exploration, and if you want your games to be annotated with things like this, get in touch. We'll play some games. All right, so we're in a Scotch. And it's like so. All right, Bishop c5. Good move. A student of mine, I was suggesting should play this move. It's aggressive. We can take this knight, but then they'll play this wonderful queen f6 intermezzo, threatening a mate here on f2, and then they'll pick the knight up with the queen, so they don't have to double their pawns. So we're going to avoid all of that. Just play knight b3 and hit this bishop, which will probably drop back to b6. Then we'll play knight c3. And then it's on them. Do they play e6 or knight f6? They played knight f6. We'll play bishop g5, pin that knight. They'll probably castle, or maybe they'll play h6 first. Tonight's stream is sponsored by Barry's Tea. Good old loose leaf they've contributed this week. Keeping me in business. All right. They have castled. Now then. Well, it's queen e2, isn't it? That's the idea. Not queen d2. Looks tempting, but it's queen e2. It's queen e2. I want to protect this pawn. Then we're going to castle long. And try and concentrate this week. And in case you're wondering, yes, that is a bin full of dog food in the background. Yes, it is. We get a lot of questions about that. Okay, now should we go back to h4 and maintain this pin? I think so. There's an argument for bishop e3 to try and challenge this bishop. But I think we should maintain this pin. g5 may come next, and then bishop g3. If we plonk our bishop here on g3, is that good? I don't see a problem with that. I mean, black can break the pin, and then this knight will be free. But currently it's not doing anything so threatening. So I think we can drop back. And we want to castle long next. Then we're going to either play like f3 and g4, or g3 and f4. Always got to be worried about this bishop landing on g4 and skewering our heavy pieces once our rook lands on d1. All right, let's bet in. Let's bet in for a good sesh. Good sesh before France take on Sweden at 10 p.m. in the World Cup. Which will be a good sort of, let down after all of the excitement of this stream. It'll be a good way to sort of calm down with a World Cup round of 32 knockout match. Good warm down, cool off. Because there's going to be fireworks in this stream. You know that. But no fireworks here. G5. Okay, fair enough. I think bishop g3 is just automatic. I mean, we're going to play h4 here as soon as we can. Maybe even before we've developed this light square bishop. And that looks like it's going to cause all kinds of problems on the king side for our opponent. Aha. Okay. So, black is putting everything on attacking this pawn. Interesting though, because when we castle long, we will pin the d pawn, and I guess their follow-up is sort of d5 to attack the pin pawn, pinned to my queen. Somehow I just think we're gonna be okay. So I'm gonna castle long. Yeah, sometimes you can play knight e4, knight takes, and then, you know, with a view to winning this piece back. I just don't think that's going to work with either f5 or d5. Queen e7 played. This looks very familiar. I feel like I played this exact line earlier. h4. If the knight captures... Okay, we need to think about that. Could we play f3? I think we should either play f3 or h4. If you play h4... Okay, I'm gonna have to calculate. And I kind of feel like if we play h4, even if everything gets traded off on e4, we're still in a great position because we're going to take on g5 and then have an open rook. And the rook is going to end up on e4, which is going to be batted back with a bishop d3. So the other option, I guess, would be f3 to defend this pawn. Threatening h4. e5 is possible. Just seeing that. I guess they just take it. And we've got to make a decision. I feel like h4. f3 just looks like too slow. Don't know if you heard that sneeze in the background. Oh, that was big. That was a big one. Don't know if my large diaphragm dynamic mic is going to pick that one up. Okay, it's not forced. We don't have to take this. We could consider capturing here, but I don't like the look of this or this, so I'm going to go ahead. And we've gambited a pawn here, but I think it's completely fine. This knight is kind of dominated by this bishop. Should we trade queens or should we go in here? Well, we're going to lose our queen if we do that. We could play queen h5. I like queen h5. Or we could go here with a view towards taking and playing bishop here, which threatens bishop h7 and stuff. Okay, so there's a choice between those two. Queen h5 does threaten the immediate queen h6. There are no checks that we have to worry about in that position after queen h5. I guess black will play queen g6, but that doesn't look good. So we'll trade queens and then we'll take this. And yeah, they're a pawn up, but they've got doubled isolated g pawns, which looks horrendous. And we've got bishop c4 check on tap. So this actually looks good. I just don't like the look of leaving this queen here. But maybe it's good. Bishop d3 incoming. Got to be more dynamic, haven't we? Can we see a defense or an easy way to consolidate? No. So let's do that. Yeah, maybe knight b4 is a problem. If we go here, that threatens a mate, prevents bishop d3, and then we have to fashion something. That's annoying, but maybe we should get the queens off, because that looks quite hard to meet. We have to play something artificial like rook d2. Maybe that's okay, but it just looks wrong. Okay, let's trade queens. Okay. Now, take the pawn or bishop d3 first. I feel like they might have a chance to stop us in our tracks, so... Is this rook threatening anything? Knight b4 isn't a problem anymore. I think we should go ahead, open the h-file. And is it worth a pawn? We've got the open h-file, we've got our opponent not completed their queenside development, and we've got active bishops. I think the answer has to be yes. So let's go. That might not be the best move. Bishop c4 would hang a piece. This is it's a possible move. Is it hard to defend g5? Probably not. Alright, let's do that first. And I'm kind of looking at rook h7 followed by this rook move. Or maybe actually rook h5 followed by rook dh1. That seems like a kind of tempo gaining way to double the rooks. And once we double rooks, I mean honestly it looks pretty difficult. Okay, let's go ahead with that. So threatening just rook takes g5 followed by rook dh1. Looks good. Okay, f6, yep, expected. Now we double the rooks. We could even play bishop g6. That would hit the rook. Where would the rook go? I don't think we need to do that. Let's double rooks and let's get a move on because we're low on time. But it's always the same. I kind of trade time for getting a good position, and then I just get outplayed in a time scramble. Well, you know, a one-way time scramble. While my opponent offers some cheap tricks, and I can't deal with him in the seconds that I have left. Yeah, but with 3 minutes on the clock and a position that looks good, be interested to see the engine's evaluation here, but I would be very surprised if it says black is even. Okay, this knight is not great. This bishop is excellent. This bishop is not great, but it's not poor. I mean, it's doing something. It's kind of limited by these pawns at the moment, but it could spring into action after an f4. These rooks are just fantastic. So, I mean, at the moment, it's like these pieces versus this one and this king, and surely that's just not enough. You have to have to scramble to defend here. I mean, what's the threat at the moment? This? If the king goes here? Okay, so maybe just this. No. Okay, here. If the king goes here, we double up. We're going to force the king to e6, basically. Ah, interesting. Okay. Okay, what did that do? And what did it prevent? It attacks this bishop, which is a very important bishop, as we mentioned. I feel like bishop f5 is a serious problem because it threatens a checkmate. Right, so maybe knight f7 would be the move there to prevent the rook coming to h8 with a check. But if we give a check first, the king has to go here. Ah, okay, that was the whole point of this. Oh, and there's the answer. So if we take this off, they've got to tape out with the rook. Because if they tape out with the pawn, we can win an exchange by playing rook h8, king f7, and then bishop g6. And if they do that and they tape back with the rook, then I feel like check, check. The king's going to go to e6. And then we've got bishop f5, check. There's this move. I feel like we should be able to do better than that somehow. The other option is to capture and play bishop c4 first. Where would the king go? Here? That might work better, because then after the check, you feel like they have to come forward. And in that position here, yeah. Looks difficult. Okay, by this time we should have calculated something, so king f7. Maybe that's when we take here. Does it make a difference? There'll be a trade of rooks. Oh, hang on a minute. This is all nonsense. Look, we give check with both rooks, and then we pick this one off. Okay. Should have seen that much quicker, but saw it in the end. Right, I think it's just forced. Losing a rook. Like so. So in all the fun there, awash in variations which made absolutely no sense. We missed that we were just winning a whole rook here, and now we can just pick everything off. This knight is actually pinned, so that would allow other things. Need to pick up the pace a bit because we are quite low on time. But I think if we go here, that's going to open up the 6th rank, so we can throw in another check. And it's going to be very difficult. In fact, this seems to threaten a mate perhaps more efficiently. There's c4. Is that mate? No, that's mate. That's actually quite a nice checkmate. Okay, rook a6, king d5, c4, mate. Why not? Why not have a bit of that? Okay, the usual scenario. We managed to win a game. We carved out a win. Yeah. With no time left on the clock. Lucky that we had a position that we could convert. All right, not bad, not bad. Let's have a quick look. Through this game. Oh, the computer analysis has already been done. Someone check this game out in advance. All right, let's have a quick look. So, Caro-Kann, should we get rid of all these arrows? They're quite annoying, aren't they? Settings. Show best move arrows. Yeah, all right. Variation arrows. No. Move annotations. Nah. Server analysis, live engine annotations, nah. Okay. And yet we still see everything. Show evaluation gauge, yeah, okay. Okay, so it's server analysis we needed to do. Cool, okay. Oh, still we get all of this. What's going on? Settings, show best move arrows, okay. Is that what we want? Okay, this'll do. Okay, so here I felt like g5 was not advised. Okay, seems playable. Engine suggests following with d5. Okay, long castles was good. Queen e7. Okay, and here the engine is saying rook e1 was the best move. So it wants us to defend with the rook, and probably also threaten to push, I guess, in response to d5. But we played h4, which is not a bad move. We captured queen d2 was what the engine was. That's a nice idea. Sidestep and put yourself on the long diagonal where you're attacking those targets there. Like that. But instead we traded queens, and this was okay. Bishop d3. Yep, rook went back. Rook h5, decent move. f6, and now it's lost. So what was the defense? d6 is what the engine is saying to get this light square bishop into the action. Defending this pawn is fatal. Rook hd1. Yeah, and took a long time to find that there was just a hanging rook in this position. Mate in 14. Apparently this was not the move, but now it's mate in 2, which we did find. Okay, not a bad game. Not a bad game. Not much to learn there. Apart from that we could have had more of an advantage by playing rook e1 in this position. Okay. All right. Let's crack on. Oh, that's where I should have used this splash screen, you know, to be professional. But no one's watching anyway, so it doesn't matter. e4, e5. This is just a trial. This is just learning the ropes for when, you know, we pull out the big streams, playing the rival streamers. The Ponziani. This deserves a moment to reflect on this opening. Very popular opening, you know, but it's kind of a YouTube opening. It's not very good. You know, there's a whopping trap in there. If you play knight f6, there's a line you can get in where you just lose as black. But the best move is d5. And the reason is that after a trade on d5, the knight can no longer come to c3 and attack the queen. So, happy days. And black's just equalized, solved all their problems. Now we can think about how to set up. Castling long looks tempting. You can also just play knight f6 and defer the question. I'm sure we can push e4. If we push e4, where does that knight go? If it goes to g5, we can kick it again. It's not going to sack on f7, no chance. If it goes to h4, I mean, we could trap the knight with g5. I wouldn't be so surprised if white has a way out there, but it doesn't look good. So I'm not going to calculate that any further. This move looks tempting. I mean, it kind of feels wrong, but it looks tempting. Like, usually white does not allow black to push their pawn to e5, hitting a knight and forcing it to retreat to g1. You know, you usually don't have that option. I'm gonna take the option. Right, but why didn't we just win a pawn? I mean, we don't have to take it yet, I guess. It could be defended with a check. I don't know. I think we should just take the pawn. Is my queen going to get kicked around the park? I'm not sure it is. I think I just want bishop e6 and castles long. Maybe one knight f6, bishop d6. We're a bit kind of under defended on the queen side, so maybe we don't want to castle queen side. Do we have time for this? I mean, this would just be ideal. Can this queen be chased away? You know, a bishop on b2 might do that job, but unfortunately, there's none of this because the rook will be hanging. So probably no option to fianchetto the bishop. They probably would have to advance this and play bishop e3. If this gets advanced, we'll capture. There's no bishop e3 there because I think we'll take their bishop. Okay, but this puts a stop to that as well, because after this we'll capture, and they'll have to trade queens, because if they take with the bishop, I think we might have something like that. No, it feels a bit wrong, but bishop e6. Maybe what they want is knight a3, or knight c3. Okay, they want knight b5. That makes sense. We could play c6 to prevent that. Then they probably want b3, bishop b2. Okay, so we could play c6, and then after b3 we could castle long. Leaves a bit wobbly on this diagonal. We could also just play rook d8, because after bishop b2 we can take on d2. This pawn is attacked. Maybe we should try to defend it with knight f3 to bishop here, bishop b2, castles long, and then is there a discovery? Maybe there isn't. Maybe there actually just isn't a discovery. Okay, I'm just going to play knight f6. Oh shit, I allowed knight b5. Forgot about that. Okay, knight b5. Oh, right, okay. But now we can't actually capture that. I mean, I think we should. Again, I don't think this works. Oh, it does work. Yeah, we can't take this. Okay, we didn't have time to... So that's unfortunate. Okay, opponent didn't play it. I thought bishop e3 was the idea. Okay, we can castle long. And, I mean, maybe we're even putting the pressure on in that position, because that bishop is pinned. Probably bishop c2. I mean, I think white's in the... having only moves here. You can't play knight b5 because we'll take the bishop after castles long. So let's castle long. I guess bishop b5 was a threat in that position because our queen would have been hanging. A check with a discovered attack, but not anymore. We're just going to take this guy, so they're going to drop it back, and now we can just trade queens if we want, and a pair of rooks, or if not, their bishop's going to land on d1, or we could just play bishop c5, and then they'll keep the queens on, which... Yeah, why do we even think about allowing that? Let's just try and flex the extra pawn. That was probably not the best move in the position. Should probably have kept the queens on and tried to milk the position. Okay, we can trade, or we can play something like bishop c5, bishop b4. I think we should trade. I think we should trade and put a minor piece back on the back rank. Okay, and then I don't want to give up the bishop pair for this knight. But still, I quite like the placement of bishop b4. Yeah, I quite like that placement. But I'm kind of thinking that the only thing that I can do is develop this rook, but there might be something better. There might be some better idea, you know. Should we try and trade pieces straight away like this? Don't like bishop d6. I quite like bishop e7, but it looks passive. The only reason I'm not going here is because we're going to get attacked. And then we just could have a monster bishop. I mean, that's just a monstrous bishop. It really is. You know what? That's what I'm going to go for. Bishop c5. That's kind of the optimal placement for this bishop. In some sense, other than this long diagonal, you know, this is kind of one of the best squares. Okay. Well, now it's almost okay, they're going to play bishop b4. They're also going to try and attack this guy, but if they do that, we'll play this knight move. Okay, but if we go here, they'll attack the knight. We won't have time for that. Maybe we should play c6. Maybe c6 is just a good move. On bishop b4, we probably have a way of meeting that then with this move. Takes, and then we'd be in a same coloured bishop's opening with an extra pawn that's isolated. Oh, there's rook c1 in that position. It's going to win our bishop, so we can't go into that. Oh, that's a good spot. Okay, in that case, I don't like what's going on. Okay, we could still play this. We just can't bring the knight after that move. That's okay. Maybe we can just play knight d7. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so let's do that. I mean, we've spent so much of our time waffling, thinking. We got a good position out of it. Okay, so they're intending this, which makes sense. Should we? I don't think we want to do that yet. But I'm quite happy to just retreat this bishop, I think. Or actually just pin the knight if that occurs. So thinking about that, don't like bishop b4. So I might just go here, honestly. Just keep it simple. Not worried about this because we'll pin the knight to the rook, which is going to be pretty annoying. And I'm expecting white to develop this dark square bishop. Probably here. And then we're just going to develop our rook. Oh, here we go. Well, made it kind of easy for me to make this move at least. Okay. What about this now? Feels like that's a surefire way to swap off pieces. We're going to get the bishop pair. A monster bishop here on d5. If they take this and we go there, is there any justification for having given that exchange up temporarily? I don't think so. Can't see a move. There are a couple of checks, but it's not going anywhere, I don't think. Okay, so bishop takes. Bishop takes. Then is there any rationale for giving up the exchange? Again, there's a check. But, you know, the knight can come to e2, but we've got, sorry, e7, but we've got king d7. So this looks like a way to just trade off. So let's go. Probably we should have developed the rook, but I can't resist these kind of attempts to simplify things. Okay, thought that might occur. Okay, now this is a threat. We're going to go into opposite color bishops, which might look a bit drawish, but this bishop's just a monster. Are we worried about that? I don't think so. Okay, so I think we should go ahead. And after bishop takes, we'll probably play f6. On rook takes, we'll definitely develop the rook, but that was never going to happen. So f6, kind of like that. This will be the move, I would have thought. Kind of annoying that we've allowed that and not had time to play this. If we play that, they capture here. Oh, we've got that, actually. That, oh, yeah. They'll take this, but we'll grab this. They'll go here. We'll grab that. And yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so let's put that this way. Should we put it that way? Yeah, I think we should. Not worried about this. Rook g8. So bishop g7, rook g8 looks like it reclaims the material. Because bishop g7, rook g8, bishop h6, rook takes g2, and the king cannot go to h1 to defend the h2 pawn. Okay, so they defend, we're going to defend, and now we've just got this, you know, beautiful situation over here. If they advance, we'll chalk it up this way. Chalk it up? What does that even mean? Maybe the king comes in to defend the pawn. Looks like a positive king move, but we could also just do this. It weakens this square. I don't like that. So. But I also, yeah, I also want my king here, really. I'm going to do that, just because I don't want to weaken that. This square. Inevitably, okay, shit. Yeah, that was not cool. Okay, now we're going to end up with a passive rook. At least for a time. Okay, so we had to do that to defend this way. We should probably have pushed and not had a passive king. But anyway, we do still have an extra pawn. Okay, that was the idea. Can we prevent this some other way? Okay. That's one way at least to defend this pawn. I guess their idea is to play like this and attack this guy. What we should be doing is this. And if they take, just bring the king. Force him to defend this weak pawn. So maybe we can make our position work after we played this king b7 move. But we did what we should never have done, which has allowed them to have active pieces while we've got this passive rook. Yeah, no, an extra pawn isn't worth so much. Alright, okay, so we could do this if we wanted. I think we should. I think we should do this. Play this and whip this. Okay, can we get these pawns onto light squares somehow? We want to trade rooks. Do we? Don't know, actually. Then we're going to be in opposite coloured bishops. Okay, don't know what to do, so we're just making moves. How do we try and get our rook active? Okay, here's one thing that we probably don't want to do. Okay, but I don't see how we've got much choice. Okay, so the king comes in. My idea is... I don't know what my idea is. Are they going to go here and just... this rook's protected. Okay. Okay, now we may just survive here. Okay, that was lucky that we got that break. Okay. Whew. Right, now we should be able to run here. Okay. Oh, we should just take this. Guaranteed a draw now, I think. Yeah. But made a big hash of that, honestly. Did we allow this king to attack our bishop? Yes. Okay. Yeah, there is a world in which we could get into trouble here. I guess. Okay, but this probably isn't it. Maybe it is. Maybe we've fucked it. I think we've fucked it royally. Jesus Christ, how on earth did we lose this? It's insane. Wow. Okay. I mean, extra pawn in an opposite coloured bishop's ending, and then, you know, it's supposed to be the most drawish position, and then we lose. Okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Poor. Really poor. Where did it go wrong? I wonder. So, analysis is coming through. Somewhere around here. Okay, here it was a draw. I understand that. And this, okay, did not like this move. And then things stayed even until here. And now we're in the territory of only moves. And now it's lost. What do we have to do? Probably this. A king c7. We had to bring the king to stop this pawn. Kind of makes sense, really. We tried to stop it with the bishop, which is a bad idea, right? Because the king can attack the bishop. Whereas if we do it with our king, if we get our king here, we just cannot lose that. Oh, okay. That's a bit shit. You know, you do a lot of hard work and then you go and lose an ending like that. Okay. Onwards. Let's see what we can get out of this Caro-Kann. Queen c7. Okay, unusual. Maybe knight e2 to play bishop f4 is a thing. e5 takes. Yeah, okay, that would allow e5. Okay, but then the knight would be pinned to the queen. So I quite like that. I'm going to go with that idea. Because it seems like black hasn't tried to stop that. I guess they can always get their bishop to d6, and then if we trade, it's like, why did we put our knight on e2? Maybe. Okay, but we could try to combine that with queen b3, but no, we wouldn't have time. So e6 probably for them. The chat mallow. 1903. That last game was a bad loss. I think that's an exemplary failure. That's the kind of thing that we should look at, because, you know, we should be getting the draw for that game and not losing the rating points. You know, rating isn't everything, but we're trying to at least you know, improve the standard and try to get games with higher rated opponents. And losing endings like that is not going to help. All right, this might be a blunder because of bishop e2. Maybe it's not a blunder. We take, they take, we take them. Kind of uncomfortable. Okay, but I think we can just kick this guy around. We haven't committed to castling yet, so we may even be able to play g4, and then on bishop f4 will be really good, because there's not going to be a bishop d6 in the way. So it looks like we're either going to get the bishop pair, or we're going to get bishop f4 with a tempo, and yeah, that would justify this knight e2 move. But it probably wasn't good, because e6 looked like a comfortable way to meet the threat of bishop f4. Okay, happy with the position. Okay, I'm going to go in with this. I don't see why it's so bad. If we can get queens off now, this pawn structure is not going to look so stupid. Okay, just bishop f4, I think. e5 will trade, and the knight then, ooh, it would threaten knight f3. Yeah, e5 played. Okay, but that's all right, I think. I think we can handle this threat. Or maybe we can't. If we take that, they've got this move. That's uncomfortable. Oof. Okay, but perhaps what's not been accounted for is bishop b5 check. And that's annoying, because you've got to move your king in that position. So knight takes e5. Luckily for us, we've got queen b5 check. Oh, there's also queen a4 check. And it's a big problem. Queen a4 is an annoying move to face because you can't play queen c6. You can play queen d7. But then there's bishop b5 and the queen is under attack. You have to play knight c6. And then there's a knight pinned to the queen, but maybe bishop b5 is just more annoying. The king has to move probably to d8, I think, unless I'm missing something. Yeah. All right, so bishop b5, king d8. Can we find a brilliant move there, or a good move? Yes, we can. Queen takes d5 check, wins a piece. No, it doesn't. There's bishop d6. But then the bishop's pinned. Knight, bishop takes e5. I think it wins a piece. Okay, so you've got to go king e7. Yeah, you got to go king e7, and that's kind of crafty because no, okay, then queen d5, and there's no knight f3, which looks like a good move until you see that queen takes f3, picks up the knight, and protects the f4 bishop. Okay, so bishop b5, king e7, queen d5, and this knight is pinned and attacked twice, so you've got to defend it. I think the only way to defend it then is f6. Well, I mean, that looks awful, so I think that's okay. Is there anything better? We could take this off. I think so. Oh, I want to try and calculate. Bishop b5, king e7. Yeah, okay. I mean, bishop b5 checks just is horrible, isn't it? It's horrible. Is there anything better? Let's think of the moves. We could castle. Nah, this is hanging. This bishop is hanging, so we have to meet that threat. So probably the only other move would be this or this. We've thought about both of those, and we think this is better. So let's go. King e7. What an awful move to have to play to block in this dark square bishop, but you simply cannot play this move because queen d5 is going to pick up this knight. I think we could see a resignation here. It's not beyond doubt that we'll see resignation. No, we're probably king e7, so let's calculate. King e7, queen d5. I think f6 is the only move there. Yeah, and I guess there's a few things we could do there. We could bring this knight. We could castle, and try to bring the rook to the e file to further pin this knight. Yeah, it just looks like an uncomfortable position for black, and they are threatening rook d8 to hit our queen. Yeah, king e7 played. So let's pause for a moment because this might not be the best move. Oh, but it's hard to not play that. It'd be funny if queen d4 happened to be stronger. Nah, I can't abide by that. Okay. The move I considered was this, which has been on the cards, Black's dying to play this move and discover an attack on our bishop, but unfortunately that knight would be hanging, and the queen, upon recapture, would defend. So f6 played, as expected. So, what next? Knight d2 could be played. Yeah. We want to further attack this knight, right? But we need a plan against rook d8. Bishop c4. I guess then you've got queen c4. So not that. I mean, did we win a pawn? Yeah, so we could just try and swap off. bring this pawn here, isolated, the king in an uncomfortable position. I guess the question we should answer is, if we do make a developing move to bring rook d8 in, could we still swap off after rook takes? We'd win a piece in that line, I think. No, because our bishop's hanging. Maybe we should just swap off. Knight d4 does threaten this retort to rook d8. It's a good retort, isn't it? Yeah, it's checkmate. So maybe knight d4 is a good rebuttal to this rook d8 move. Yeah, I like that. And also we want to then play knight c3, right? Okay, actually they can take that, we take back, so maybe we don't want to do that. But still, this is a threat. Bishop f7 allows knight f5, which is mate. So otherwise, how do you meet this threat? Oh, I can't see anything. Queen d6? Queen d6 maybe. Yeah, maybe queen d6 is an idea. But then there's queen b7, which is annoying as well. So none of those moves. You really have to defend against this somehow. But there's not many pieces that can do it. Only this bishop can really defend this square. Obviously this can't do it. This can't do it. This can't do it. Well, it's not obvious that this can't do it. Or this, but they can't. The rook can't. And nor can the queen. Oh, this looks like a strong move. It's nice having all this time and this lovely position to just, you know, enjoy the knight coming to d4. All right. Once again, nope, that's not a thing. Ooh, knight d3 check. No, bishop can capture that. Then our bishop captures. Their bishop captures, excuse me. Okay, but then we do have queen e6, king here. Yeah, and of course this queen is also hanging. Yeah. So knight d3 is not going to happen. Well, actually, hang on. Knight d3 check. We take with the bishop. Then they could play queen f4. But I think the combination of my knight on d4, my queen coming into e6 unprotected, and my bishop on d3 coming back out here is going to checkmate that king. Okay, but the queen's on f4. Okay, that line I think we can deal with, so I think knight d4 is a good move. I think it's better than trading off into a pawn up position with an isolated d-pawn for your opponent. Okay. I don't think there's any other things to consider. All right. The chat mallow. I wonder what that means. Okay. Well, game 1 was good. Game 2, unfortunate. Game 3 looks to be going well. Yeah, and that will bring us to the halftime break. Okay, so let's continue to calculate. Realistically, I think knight d3, of the moves that I looked at, was the only one that offers any form of counterplay. But it probably just loses by force. But let's try and calculate that while our opponent figures out what to do. So knight d3, check. Bishop takes d3. And then not bishop takes d3, but queen takes f4 as an idea. Then the obvious move is queen e6 check, which forces king d8. And then, I mean, maybe there's not any checks in that position. Ah, yeah, but that's the problem, isn't it? Oh. Hang on, I just saw something. That's an interesting position because the queen's on f4, the king's on d8, and there would be a fork on e6, but our queen is there. So one of those ones where if you could take a piece with check, and then land this, you'd win a piece. But I don't think we quite have time for that. Now, the move that you want to play is bishop b5 to just threaten an immediate queen d7 mate. But with a queen on f4 and a bishop here, you feel like there would be some check. You know, queen c1, check, king e2. You know, then it's probably a bishop takes d3 check. So it's not easy to consider the counterplay there, but I think that looks like the best shot because you can't play rook d8. You can't play queen d6, I don't think, because of queen b7, and you definitely, yeah, well done, well found. Now there's even an argument here that we don't take this knight, but really, nah, I don't think there is an argument for that. We're going to land this if nothing else. King f1 would be the idea. If somehow it's better to give this up. Is that mate? It isn't. Because a bishop protects this square where we want to land our queen. So I think we should just go in and capture that. And I'm pretty sure they're going to take this. And then this is a thing. This is a thing. All right, and that's a thing. This is a thing. Ooh. Oh, I don't remember this one. All right, I like this thing because it's going to leave the king on a dark square. Or I hope it is. If the queen comes in, I want to land this move, but unfortunately the bishop's gonna take that off. Then we trade queens and we take back with the bishop. So not that. Okay, but we have got queen b7, which I didn't consider in my calculations. I was blinded by queen e6. But this looks great because we attack the rook, so they're not going back to the back rank because we'll take that with check. So they're gonna come forward. That means they're gonna go here, and then this queen c6 check. And they've got to be very careful because there's going to be a skewer at some point. This just looks like curtains. I don't think there's much point thinking so much. This looks really difficult for black. Okay, king d6, and then we've got options. There's a check. There's another check. If we do that, this just looks like we should be able to... I guess they'll go back to e7. Queen c6, they'll go back to e7. Here, that is so annoying. They've got to go to a dark square. b4 is coming next. That's a mate. That's a checkmate. Okay, so on this, they've got to go here or here. Now they're gonna lose a queen, I expect, or something bad's gonna happen. So let's give the check. I calculate this as mate. That's well, it's not mate because the queen can take, but that's obviously not going to happen. We're just got to be very careful we don't allow this at any point by not landing a check. Or we don't end up in a situation where this bishop attacks this bishop and like the king attacks this knight or something stupid. But I think you've got to go. Okay. There's only these two moves are possible. Now this one, well, we can't give the bishop check. We can give a knight check. We're just going to actually attack this if we ever get time. Ooh, that looks really dangerous. I guess the king has to go here. Oof, and that's a mate. But if you step backwards, then yeah. So this is really bad. So knight c7, you probably got to step backwards, and we take this discovered check. Okay, so the only move is this one. And then if nothing else, we can trade queens, and the king is going to end up on f4. But in fact, it's much worse than that, right? Because if we actually take a moment to consider what will happen, After king e5, queen c7, the king cannot move to defend this queen because both of the squares here are covered by our bishop. So if the king moves, we're now going to nab a full queen, and you can't put the bishop in the way. This is after king e5, queen c7, because the knight is covering d6. We'll just capture it, and that's a mate. Okay, so it's curtains. Oh, happy days. And that's a kind of casual, probably flawed calculation that causes me to, you know, not be very good at this game. Right, I thought this was a good move. Reason being that I guess the king could go here. Didn't think of that one. Yeah, maybe the king can just go there, actually. Okay, now we've got to think. Yes, that's pretty annoying. Okay, we can take this bishop as a last resort. If they go here, we've got this move, and everything's actually defended. And there are no checks, apart from this one. That's defended. Okay, so we've got a kind of get out of jail free card, which is if they go king d6, which I'm sure they will, we can take this. Alright, but that's mate in one, so happy days. Alright, I think I made a bit of a hash of that, but we got there in the end. Just check it's not. Yeah. You know, we call this one Swallow's Tail, mate. Yeah, very nice. If you're into your ornithology. Just got to have a quick look here in the analysis board. Good game, good game. Thank you, the chat Mallow. Let's have a quick look because... Oh, rematch offer sent. The chat Mallow. We'll get in touch. We'll have a rematch, but not just yet. Okay, white is +8. But I was thinking here, all right, they want me to go back knight b5. So what if they go here? They're probably suggesting go back to how we had it before. Okay, and then after is this different to how we went before? Oh, right, this is like engine just calmly takes this rook. Okay. Which I just could not play that move, right? There's just too much going on here, and I can't calculate. I mean, I do not want to calculate this line. Definitely not. But I guess, well, let's just have a quick look. So the king goes to e2. Yeah, bishop takes d3, king takes d3, and then there's nothing. You know, this is protected, which I did see, but I still thought like... okay. The queen is now attacked, of course, and that's protected. That's really clever. Okay. I wouldn't have seen that. Wouldn't have seen that. But luckily for us, our opponent blundered into a mate in one. So all good. Let's just have a quick look at the computer analysis before we move to the halftime break. And do a proper job of actually trying to learn from these games. Alright, looks like we... Okay, fairly even. Computer says 98% accuracy. Yeah. I think that just shows you why accuracy is a stupid measure, right? There's no way that that's really meaningful. Or that I'm that good, if you see what I mean. Okay, so this was already a bad move, which I thought it might be. Already white's... Yeah, we've gone from an even position at this point. e5 was a good move. Not the best, but this was, you can't do this, and yeah, these are probably the best moves. Yeah, queen d5, f6 only move, knight d4. That's nice, it was the top move. Okay, and our opponent went here. Bishop takes d3 was best. Queen b7. Okay, and the way forward here was just to calmly take this rook, which, fair enough, maybe you were crying out for it. I could never play that move in this position. Even in a classical game, I don't think I could ever find that. Well, that's instructive though, you know. Ghosts. It feels like why would I not play that? It just feels like there is too much counterplay going on here, right? But I guess if you calculate, this really is the only move, right? Maybe they could take the bishop. That's also a move. No, that doesn't work because we're threatening a skewer, okay, which is quite obvious or easy to see. So this is not possible. There's a check here. I guess you could think about that as being a way. But I guess that allows bishop e2, and then there's probably nothing else. Yeah, we've got a whole rook there. So this is really the only move. And that's really the only response. And in that position, actually, the queen is attacked. There's a check here to pick off this rook. But what's interesting is, yeah, in that position, there's this. And everything's just defended. And once this trade occurs, there are no checks. This king is just super safe. Wow. Okay, instructive. But instead, we went down a line that's inferior. Still good because we could always get back to where we were. Yeah, and our opponent blundered at mate 1. All right, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back in about 5 minutes with a few more rapid games, and hope to see you there. Enjoy some Harris Heller. Listen to that marimba. FM synthesis at its peak. Alright, we're going to jump straight back in with some more rapid Lichess games on Full Board Vision, sponsored this week by Barry's Loose Leaf Classic Blend. Thank you very much, Barry's. I appreciate the sponsorship. It keeps the stream going. Alright, here we are. Oh, in an E4, E5. We've had the white pieces, like, in all games? Maybe. Can't remember. Alright, the Scotch. Should we play a Scotch? Should we play an Italian? Or should we play the Ponziani? Don't think I'm a Ponziani guy. Scotchmeister. Let's go. Okay, not sure about that move. Well, we definitely recapture. That's easy. If you think about what happened, I mean, a load of moves took place, and we went from the starting position where white had a pawn in the center and black didn't, to, you know, white's now got an unchallenged queen in the center. So I don't think this has worked out very well. Queen d5 would attack this rook. c6 could be played there. You want to play bishop c4 with a view to playing queen d5, but I guess that will be met with bishop b7. Queen e5 is interesting in that position, but I guess queen e7, we won't be capturing this because they'll take this, although, yeah, no, I don't think so. So how do we deal with this idea of bishop b7? Let's just have a little, let's ruminate. Not clear. I feel like bishop c4 is a useful move. I guess we want to prevent d5, which will be the kind of freeing move. Currently that's not playable, but after bishop b7 it will be. So either knight c3 or bishop c4. Bishop c4, and we can castle short, but we might want to castle long, given that this bishop is fianchettoed. I like knight c3. Bishop b4 is not possible, of course. Alright, I'm going to play knight c3 because I'm not sure the bishop belongs on c4 at this point. Don't really know why. But yeah, I just wanted to waste 2.5 minutes of my precious time on a decision which will probably end up being inconsequential. Yeah, because I'm probably going to play bishop c4 on the next move. Or maybe not. I like bishop f4 actually, because that threatens queen e5. And if they play queen e7, then we can take and take. Then d6 would actually trap our bishop, which is kind of bonkers. Knight b5, king d... Anyway, let's not go there. I like bishop f4 with the idea of long castles. I kind of like it more than bishop c4. d5 not possible for the time being. It will be after f6. Knight f6. But then we can castle long and prevent that. Knight could drive our bishop away. Yeah, but there's queen e5 there, and we'll pick that knight off. So, bishop f4. I think checks, captures, threats. What constitutes a threat in that thinking? You know, bollocks. Oh, but hang on, this is what we had. If they do this, we take king takes or knight takes, and then we go here and they uncork this brilliant d6 trapping our knight. That would be super interesting. But it does allow knight b5, king d7. And then we could castle long and d6 is attacked. And it can't be defended. a6. But you know what? I think that line might work. Let's try to calculate that. Queen e5, queen e7. We've got options there, so we don't. Maybe we can stop there and calculate if they play queen e7, because they might play knight e7. Trades, knight takes. We take this. They play d6. We play knight b5, which threatens to win the d6 pawn. They could play knight c8 in that line. And then after castles, they could play king d7. So it doesn't look good. Looks like the d6 pawn can be defended more times than it can be attacked. But it's not obvious. Okay, we could take this. That's also an option. That looks like a good option. What could be a problem with that? I don't think that's a problem. So we've got this in the bag. You know, this would attack f2, threatening a pretty serious check. You know, gambiting this rook for that. But we've got bishop g3, and then both the queen and this rook are attacked. You're going to have to play queen f6 in that position. Then we can trade queens. Knight takes out, and then we might be able to take here, because the knight can no longer make his way to c8, which is interesting. However, e4 will be attacked, so maybe just f3 in that position, and we're laughing. Okay, queen g7, what can the retort be? Honestly, I think it has to be queen f6. And I don't think there's any compensation for that gambit. No other checks, no other captures, no other threats. By the way, there is a capture and check here, but I'd be surprised if that gives rise to anything. Nope, of note. So, let's go. Queen takes g7. Yep, queen f6 played. Now, interestingly, we can do this. Oh, but then there's queen takes f2, so... Oh, but actually, we can take, and then we can do this. That's an annoying move to face, because you've got to go bishop e7. And then we can play knight d5, probably force the bishops off. Now, that looks good. Just checking. If we go here, and they take that, and we go here, because we did this in the last game, right? We were like, oh, we can't allow that. But what are they actually going to do there? Probably can't save the rook. Yeah, it looks a bit messy. Probably going to castle long. They can't castle long. Yeah, they can castle long. I think that might be a good move, you know. Allow this. Go here. What's the follow-up? Yeah, there's this. Threatens a mate. Okay, don't like the look of that. Let's trade queens. We want a pawn. A simple pawn. Oh, this is interesting because they can probably take that. Can they do that? And then... probably not, because we can just take. And then win a whole rook, and there's probably nothing left, yeah, for them. Okay, so this is an idea, which I think is going to force this. And there's this. Takes, and I just love that. I think we just got rid of everything. We don't even have to play knight d5. Oh, we could play knight b5 after bishop e7. That might be even stronger. And it's impossible to defend c7. And we, if you don't do anything about it, then it's a fork. So we play d6 there. Knight takes, king moves, bishop takes here. Oh, it's just falling apart. Okay, king e7, good move. I quite like the look of this now, but then it can be protected. d6 will be played. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's hard to protect this. You've got to go here, and then we still just gonna take it. Maybe you can then take this in some world, because this is going to be annoying. But probably not. Okay, it's time to make some decisions. Should we just go here and go for this position? Or should we play the move that we think is potentially better, which is knight b5? Which looks like it's going to pick up another pawn. This, we're going to take that, they're going to capture. Or maybe just castles long, you know? That's going to hang this pawn. We need to do something. Okay, knight b5. Will they find this move? I mean, it's a big gambit. You get 2 pawns back, I guess, for your exchange. Yeah, maybe this was just a bad idea. Who knows? Who knows? Perhaps on this we could even castle ourselves, but then knight takes. It's going to fork us. We're going to take them. They're going to take us. Yeah. Knight b5 was just not the right idea. Bishop takes f2 now. Okay. Okay, but that's a sacrifice. That's a piece sacrifice. That cannot work. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Yep, for a fork. Alright, we just gave the pawn back and now our position is worse. Okay, at least we can take this. And after this, we go here. They took us, we take that. They take this. Okay, so we don't want that. This was horrendous. This was horrendous. Okay, let's see what we can get out of this. We're basically playing a blitz game and they've got 8.5 minutes. Knight b5 is just ridiculous. I mean, should have seen bishop takes f2. Nah. A kind of warning light should come on in those positions, shouldn't it? You know, you're fucking this up. No prospect of castling. Probably the knight wants to go back to d4 and land on f5, I would say. But now this is a threat. Yeah, okay. Well, it's still a threat, but anyway. Want to get to f5? Nice tune. Nice tune from Harris Heller. Bit of syncopation. Alright, you know what this is? Not much time left on the clock. Probably the king wants to be on d2 in this position. And if we work, we could still get something from this game. You never know. But probably the king wants to go on d2. That seems like a good square. Then we probably want to play like rook f1. Maybe a rook f4 and then rook af1. That's a way of setting up. Just pressure against this guy. Or maybe actually rook f2, because this guy is going to come under threat from probably rook here. And that's actually what's happened right now. It's getting difficult. Alright, I'm going to give the check first. That was probably a bad sign. If the knight manages to land in there, we can actually attack it. And it might not have many squares. Not where we wanted the king. But yeah, I think we're going to have to play g3 next. Oh, but there's an interesting idea. There's a really interesting idea. Once the knight is decoyed away from this square, we can give a check. And if d5... Yeah, okay, so we need to play this. If they jump in here, we can attack the knight. Good. Otherwise, we'll play rook f1. This won't be a problem no more. Okay, good. So rook f1. They want to come in with this. Fine. We'll drop back here. We may even give a check first. Okay, I think we should give a check, because that knight is on a nice square. It can't be attacked further by the king. Very passively placed bishop here on e2. Okay, we could... Our knight is here. He's going to jump back there to f5, probably. This might be an idea, but this is such a strong knight on this outpost. Oh, Jesus. Didn't even see that. Horrendous. Okay, king d2. Didn't even see that this was attacked. Alright, so now we're a pawn down. So we've gone from a position where we're a pawn up, gave the pawn back, now we're a pawn down. But there are two pieces lined up against the king. Okay, let's go like so. You never know. This be the threat. Okay, then there's knight takes actually with check, so no, we can't do that. But we can do this. That might be annoying, actually. Bishop takes, we get this check. Knight takes... Oh, we could even play rook takes there. Ooh, we might have got something. We're basically playing blitz. Alright, let's go. Bishop take. Bishop might be a better move, actually. Yeah. I prefer taking with the bishop. Or, sorry. I prefer hitting them with the bishop. Why? Because we're at least threatening to take this off. Maybe knight was better. But we opened this line immediately, right? That was the move anyway. Sorry. Confused myself into thinking it was the knight. Alright, probably not this. But you've got to do something. So probably this. And then we may even choose to take with the rook. I think we would, because our knight looks good. And if the king tries to alleviate the pin, you know, by one of these moves, well, sorry, by this move, we can take this pawn. If they go back here, then there's a check. Looks alright, then we can go there and then hopefully take this next. So that doesn't work. Okay. I understand that. So now we need to think. Okay. Oh, we don't want to do that. Okay. That was close. Probably we want this. Got to be zoned in here. The reason we don't want this... Okay, so let's get out of the way there. Probably we don't want that, but we can play this. Maybe we just want to do this. Bring the king back. King c1 was such a stupid move. entirely unnecessary. Okay, let's do that. Ooh, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but bring the knight to f4. This rook's not great. That's helping us out. Okay, knight, bring the knight to f4. Why f4 attacks this rook, I guess. Well, there might be some world in which that works. This looks rough, very rough. But as long as we keep making moves, we might get something out of this game, this horrible game that we've played. Heinous. So we should try and keep an eye on the pawn breaks, I think. Maybe by pushing this. Okay, well, that was a fork. If the rook has to go here, I'm happy with that. Okay, how can we dial this up? Okay, I'm going to try this out to get in here. Tricky knights, huh? Alright, so now this rook has made itself active, which is good for our opponent, not for us. This is an idea. It will threaten to win a pawn back. Okay, I'm going to go for it. It's cheeky. What are they going to do? Double rooks? We'll take this. Where can this bishop go now to avoid the idea? The king could move, I guess. Oh, Harris Heller's flexing. This is kind of amusing, just trying to play on the increment whilst having been completely outplayed in the normal time. Alright, so we should be trying to calculate on our opponent's time. Probably the king move works. This probably works as well, but it would allow a check. Yeah, just one check. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that, honestly. This is interesting because we can take this bishop. I guess they've got this. We can take that bishop. I guess we didn't have to do that, did we? That was a bit stupid. That was time trouble. Okay. That was really quite stupid. This is attacked and its defenders. It's going to drop. Okay, so we're going to be a pawn and an exchange down. That's obvious. Is there anything we can do to alleviate this? King goes miles away from us, which makes sense. It was always going to be the way. So let's go there. So at least after this, we've got this, and we can jump in here. Don't think there's any way out of this. Luckily, this rook prevents the whole... Yeah, so they're going to go back somewhere, probably here. What? Okay. Fair enough. I thought they'd milk that for a bit longer, but yeah, that's fair. Now just rook takes knight. Well done. Poor game. Okay, a couple of poor games, but you know, oh well. Actually, it's non-trivial, isn't it? Is it? It's probably just trivial. I don't think we've got much choice. Okay, let's hope that they try and take this. Get folked. Definitely not going to fall for that. There's another fork there as well. Interesting. You can't move the king, so you can't advance the king. Okay, so you know what? Now maybe I can make a run for it. That's kind of interesting. This would be a good move, but I will take this. So the king is going to get into these dark squares now, unless you try and block him off. That was a good move. All right, attack with check. Right. Not much choice, I don't think. Still going to be a pawn and an exchange down. For a long time. Oh dear, oh dear. Should we have resigned? Should probably have resigned. Just take this. Oh, it doesn't go for it. You know, interesting. Alright. Well, defend the pawn. I'll come back in with a check. Probably jump in here now next. Forcing the king back. Then they'll be pushing here, unfortunately. All right, let's do this one. Come back here. Well, I'm going to go with the fork that attacks the king. That checks the king. Hang on a minute. Oh, my knight's pinned. Brilliant move. Brilliant, brilliant. Okay. Well played. All right, let's briefly look at that. That was a really terrible game. Let's see what went wrong. So, yeah, as we can see from the graph that's building, I had a massive advantage to start with. And then all went wrong somehow. The wrong plan. Oh, let's have a quick look. So, a lot of analysis here. This apparently is a bad move. B6. Knight c3. White has a massive advantage. Queen takes g7. Yeah, what did we do wrong? This was the first incorrect move. Okay, king e7. Just castles long. That's a shame because that just looks so attractive. Oh, but it's wrong because bishop f2 and knight g4. Fuck. I mean, that is so obvious as well. Wow. Okay, and then we allow it again, then they find it, and now we're in trouble. Okay, understand. Don't really want to see any more of that. Okay, yeah. Let's crack on. That's 2-all. 2 bad games, 2 pretty decent games, I'd say. 2 games where we definitely, sure we got outplayed. We just kind of, I don't know, beat ourselves in a way. No, that's discrediting the opponents. Opponents played very well. All right, debut 2603. Let's see what we can do with the final 2 games of the session. All right, debut 2603 looks like the debut move is still awaiting. Oh, I don't think you can hear the background music. There we go. Sorry about that. All none of you watching. All right, here we go. So, but maybe you're watching on catch up and you've been disappointed. Then I apologize profusely and sincerely. We won't let it happen again. All right, back into Caro-Kann. It is the Caro-Kann. I can Caro-Kann. Okay. Should we play f4? I don't think you play f4 yet. It's when your opponent commits e6, so the bishop's not coming to g4. So probably c3 at this point. Okay, and now bishop f4. And we're back in the normal position that arises. Whoa. Yeah, hang on a minute. What happened there? Supernatural being. Some kind of supernatural force. Alright, bishop g7. Okay, that's an interesting idea. I guess what they're doing is saying, right, if you play knight f3, I'll do bishop g4. Don't want to do that yet, because you'll play queen b3. So I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to play g6 and wait. Yeah, you can do that, but now we can play knight f3 followed by knight d2. And that's fine. So, good, knight f3. Not worried about bishop g4 now, because we can just play knight d2. And that looks good. Happy with that. Okay, they go bishop g7. Okay, we could castle, but we could also try and throw this pawn. Throw Harry. Chuck Harry up the board, but that seems a bit ambitious, honestly. So let's just castle. Probably just go for the usual setup. Maybe queen b3 is actually annoying for black, because it kind of... you want to defend b7 before you move your c8 bishop? Maybe. Overload the juicer. Bishop g4. Various options, but not really. I think just knight d2. h3 we could do. Actually, now that you've played bishop, now you played g6, you know, and you've got these light square pawns, maybe g4 is not a good spot for this bishop. For the simple reason that h3, and you're probably going to have to retreat. You do not want to do this, I'm sure. Sure you don't want to do that. I just don't think you do. Plus, we make a flight square for our bishop. Or, you know, a little pocket for it in case of knight h5. This bishop can find a home on h2 and maintain the diagonal it's on. So this looks suspect, honestly. Looks a bit suspect. Circumspect. Probably knight d2. Maybe knight b3 to c5 if black ever ventures b5. Probably a6 first and then b5. Otherwise, we'll bring the rook to e1. Probably play queen. No, we don't want that. Maybe queen e2. We want to bring this knight to e5. I think. But yeah, we've got some ideas here. So we've got the bishops. Okay. So we could try to keep our queen on f3 and bring this knight to c5. Maybe we want to wait for b5 before we do that, because if we do this, c5 we can get hit with an annoying move b6. Anyway, I think the rook belongs on e1. Maybe rook e2 and rook fe1. Okay, now I'm going to go knight b3 and get this knight to c5. And it's a different situation to what it normally is, because normally in this structure with this minority attack, white doesn't have a dark square bishop because it got traded on d6, and black still has a light square bishop. As it stands, it's somewhat different. We've got bishop pair, and that might help us. It might help us because c3 is not going to become weak. I say that and I'm going to have to put my money where my mouth is. So I'm going to have to allow this. The idea that I can put my bishop back on d2 at some point. There's probably not a lot else we can do because we're not taking this. So let's make a useful move. I think we want the knight on c5. All right. I mean, we can then argue that then the b file becomes important, so we want to bring our rook back there, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world. We can also just, this is a target which is keeping this guy here, so they're probably going to play e6. We're also attacking this pawn. I don't think we'll take that in any situation, but you never know. Yeah, so how to proceed? I think that's pretty obvious. We've got to recapture. There's no rook b8 for the moment. Again, we've got a dark square bishop. So the queen comes in here, and that's sort of interesting. To defend this pawn, I didn't think that that was necessary. I feel like this rook belongs back on b1, right? That's how I feel. And that we can claim the b file here. And we've just got excellent pieces. So let's do that. Let's not mess around. Giving our opponent time advantages and things. Did that queen move threaten anything? Don't think so. Knight coming to e4 is something we have to watch out for, usually in this opening, but we've got e4 covered. So that's not a square that's going to cause us a problem. e5. That's an idea. e5 is an idea. I kind of missed that. It's a bit of a nuisance, actually. Okay. So what can we do about e5? Don't think we can capture. Or maybe we can. Oof. Threatens e4 as well, so we've got to deal with that. Okay, actually, e5 we take and we threaten this knight. Knight takes, bishop takes, and if queen takes c5, we've got bishop takes f6. So maybe e5 is not the excellent move I thought it was. We can probably just take that, causing this knight to move, and then we'd have time to deal with this knight here on c5, which would be temporarily emperor. Okay, all right. Supernatural being 2075, kind of game we want. The kind of game we want, and I think we've got a good position. It's kind of interesting with the queen side being a mess. The minority attack has happened and has left us with a weak pawn on c3. But when the knight's on c5 and we've still got a dark square bishop, it feels like this isn't such a weakness. And moreover, the open b file can't be claimed by a rook immediately, all because we've still got our dark square bishop. And black allowed all of that by fianchettoing there. Dark square bishop on the g7 square, rather than contesting the h2 b8 diagonal with a move like bishop d6 when their queen was on c7. So it feels like, if e5 is not playable here, it's hard to find a good move. And white's position is probably easier to play because we can play rook b6, for example. Double rooks on the b file, hit the a6 pawn, hit the c6 knight. Also, the queen having gone to c8 no longer guards d5, so this pawn is only protected by this knight, so this knight's kind of glued. The only move you could really make with it, I guess, is knight a5. Then we probably drop the bishop back. Safe. And we're thinking of taking on d5. So we've got a good position, and I'm not surprised our opponent's having a think. A good long think. Tanking. We should have one for that, shouldn't we? You know. So in this game there's not really been any unfortunately. But it remains to be seen. This is an unusual position for the stream where we've got a time advantage. And we have the luxury of being able to respond immediately to our opponent's move, having already thought about it. Okay, so now they played e6 to defend, which makes a lot of sense. Perhaps now we just go ahead. I don't see a reason why we wouldn't do that. Such a good piece. This didn't threaten anything, I don't believe. There is a world in which we play g4 and then try and attack the knight again, but I don't think we need to do that. Let's do this and double the rooks. It's a very unusual Caro-Kann. You don't expect to get a position like this, and I think it's better than you could possibly have expected. Okay, I mean, if we take this, we attack the queen. They're going to go here. We're going to take that. They're going to take this. I guess. And they're going to win 2 pawns and a rook. Yeah, okay. So we can take this and they're going to go here. And what are they saying? They're kind of saying the knight's attacked and so is the queen. Yeah, that seems true. Okay, interesting. So we take this, they're going to take this, discovering an attack on our knight and our queen. Queen e3, queen takes, rook's attacked, knight's pinned to the queen. Okay, so I prefer this, allowing this with rook takes. Queen takes, leaves this knight temporarily in no man's land, but if we take back with the queen, it is defended. And then there's g4, knight g7. I think we've got ideas there. Then there would be bishop here and bishop here, which is a great idea. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with that. Oh, there's bishop takes knight. That's interesting. Oh, I didn't see it. That was definitely the way forward, I think. That's definitely the way forward, I think. Okay, queen here, I think. Protecting the knight. So after queen takes c6, we can uncork g5 and bishop e5. f6, bishop f6, rook takes, queen takes, they take this. Yeah. Do we want to play g4 or do we want to come straight in with this? We can here. I guess the problem with the bishop e5 is f6, bishop d4, and e5. If we go g4 first, that forces knight g7. Then bishop e5 threatens queen f6. You know, maybe knight b3 and knight d4 is an idea. This bishop looks great, but doesn't really do much. The knight on g7 is just terrible, though. Okay, so let's go. Haris Heller. Big tunes. Alright, so this game was interesting. And then our opponent found a pretty good bishop sacrifice. Well, was it a bishop sacrifice? They did the whole giving up 2 pieces for a rook and 2 pawns. So they won a pawn's worth of material, which sounds good. But you know, you've got this and this essentially against, let's say, these 2, or rather these 2. Now, a rook and 2 center pawns against 2 bishops, in an endgame, it's probably pretty good. But in this position, not sure. I quite like this move. I think it's a good move. Just to prevent f6. Does it prevent f6? We could take. I mean, then our bishop would be pinned to our queen, but it doesn't look like. Oh, maybe there's a way. Maybe there's knight d8 in that position. I don't want to do this and give this pawn up. I just don't. Okay, so let's try and calculate our way out of f6. Bishop takes f6. Knight e8. Kind of difficult. Looks quite bad, that. That looks quite bad. Okay, maybe we don't try and chase this. But if we don't do that, what do we do? What do we actually do? Ah, g5. Yeah. Bishop e5, f6. Bishop f6, knight e8. There's g5. h6, h4. And I think we're surviving there. I'm going to end up with a pawn on f6. Oh dear. Oh, wow. Okay, but we might be able to play... Gosh, Jesus, this is too much. Look, we've got to do something. That looks like a move. f6 looks risky, so they're probably not going to play it. But mind you, it's kind of forced, in a way. Well, it's not forced. Maybe you play knight e8, but you probably don't want to allow the queen jumping into f6, hitting the king, forcing it back to g8. Probably don't want that. Gonna have to go for it. This might be a bad decision. I thought you might do that, but, like, yeah. You get the 2 pieces back, I see, but still. Yeah. Now then. We are threatening this, so we should keep that threat. If we go here, are there any checks? There's this one. If we go here, are there any? No. So maybe king h1. King g2, same? No checks there. Queen f7 might be a problem. How do you defend that and also this? Alright, let's get to the g2 square. And now we are just a pawn down. With perhaps slightly better activity. Alright, e6 is not, it's defended. Maybe we're just losing. Oh, but I mean, for example, this would be curtains, because queen f7, king h8, queen f8, winning. So in fact, any queen move which relinquishes defense of the f8 square is going to lose on the spot. With this knight on the... What square do you call that? It's like the horror square or something. Yeah, go on, take c3. Looks so tempting. You attack the bishop. Queen f7, king h8, queen f8. They're definitely going to see that. So they won't do that. But then I guess what do we do about this? Oh, it's actually defended anyway. So that's not going to be tempting. We can take this as well. Now that's a threat to win this pawn back. Yeah, because it's the same problem. Queen f7, king h8, queen f8. Queen takes f8 that time, and then rook f8 with the mate. So we might have just got lucky enough that we've got some background threats that might keep us in this game. But oh, what? I didn't see that at all. Okay, we're just going to go into an endgame. Okay, that's what they want. Fair enough. Can we get out of that in any way? I don't think so. So it's forced. We've got to go into it. Pick up the pawn. We've got an outside passer. Okay, where's that going? Here. I think the pawn ending is winning. The pawn ending is winning. So what should we do? Maybe we should just bring the king. Right. Don't really want to allow stuff. So what about this? Is that really stupid? Maybe that's stupid, because then the bishop might get trapped. What about this? No, king will defend. If we go here, they're just going to go here and here. So it's kind of... That was a good move. Do you want to go here then? I don't think so. Okay, freezing. Passive. But we've covered this square, which is good. We should push. We should bring the king. This is a great move. Yeah, but they probably want this first. King e7. We might have a chance of winning this. Oh, that's a great move from them. Well done. Well, let's go. Probably... How do we do this now? Maybe we want to come in this way. Deep freeze. Frozen out this pawn. Good play from them. Really, really well played. We could actually do this. I think we might... Ooh, that does not look like the way forward from our esteemed opponent. What did they do that for? Now they've got to go here. They can't allow this, I'm sure. then we can perhaps rock up like this and attack that. Okay, now this isn't possible. Ah, now that is possible. Okay, fair enough. Okay, just gonna throw that one. I'm gonna drop back here. This won't work. Now their king has drifted off. We're going to win this pawn if they advance. If they take, we're going to capture and defend, and the same problem for them. So we feel like we've undermined their center, and if that center goes, we can't lose that. For sure. For sure we can't lose that. Now then, this, is there any way to defend that? I don't think so. So it's going to drop. Yeah, this is going to drop, but then that's going to drop. So we're actually winning a pawn there. Well, it would be nice to win a bishop against knight ending. Quite often mess those up, but our opponent is feeling the heat. And look at this. It's... getting down to no seconds. C4. Good. Okay, and what next? Interesting. Okay, going to drop here. In the event of this, we'll just go here. Okay, so they did well. They froze our king out. Well, maybe we should just over here and do this. So let's try that. At least we have a plan. Now this is possible. But then we'll just drop back here. Okay, this was the idea. Breakthrough. That's not really a breakthrough, is it? Oh, hang about. Okay. They'll probably come back. How do we get the king into the game? Yes, not like that. Probably like this. Not like that either. I feel like if they advance this pawn, that might be good for us. There is this idea, actually. Ah, no, that will lose the pawn. Okay, let's do it like this then. Trying to induce this advance, if you like. Okay, so if the knight comes over here to attack this, we'll defend both pawns, which it did. And then we'll bring the king. We may even bring the king... Well, it's pointless bringing it... Ah, fair enough. Alright, now it's a draw. That's probably the best we could have hoped for. Alright, not bad. Good game, good game. Got away with a draw. What time are we on? Okay, it's going to be the end, unfortunately. Well played, supernatural being. Good game, good game. Let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look and see what happened in that game, because it was a very interesting Caro-Kann. And there must be a way to punish g6, I'm sure. That there's something better. Yeah, look, we had a big advantage, and then we ended up in a drawn ending for many moves. Knight f3, engine agrees. Knight bd2, so we castled there. Looks like it doesn't make a great deal of difference. Okay. This looked good. Knight d2. g4 is being suggested. But somewhat a bit further down the line, we ended up with a very good position. Yeah, white's still better here. Okay, bishop g5 is being suggested as a good move. This one. Not sure what the idea of that is. I guess it's basically to just remove the knight. Ah, that's such a good move. So you just go, I'm going to try and remove the defender, and the natural thing to do is to defend. But you can't do that because then your knight's hanging. Bishop g5. Instead rook b1, which is nowhere near as good, but still okay. And again, bishop g5. Inducing f6, I guess. Bishop h2, also very good. +2 now. e6. Queen e2. Ooh, that is such a good move. Queen e2. Potentially f4 is going to get pushed. And just putting all the pressure on the a6 pawn. Didn't play that. Played this. This is decent. And now... Okay. Apparently there was a way through here. What was it? So I saw queen e3, and then after queen c5... Oh. Pawn down. 2 pawns down. But apparently just doubling up rooks. Well, I mean, come on. Who looks at that position and is like, white is +3? Who does that? Who knows that? I mean, what's that all about? Okay, maybe it's that this is a threat. And there's no probably, oh yeah, there's no f6. Maybe there is f6, but yeah, you don't want to play that. Oh, why is this pin so devastating? What is that? That's mad. Like, I mean, we saw this move, queen e3. We saw this position and rejected it. Which is fair. Like, this is +3. It looks insane. Black has this amazing center, you know, and it's just the pressure of this pin. So concretely, why doesn't this work? So let's put some moves on the board. Are there any? Okay, you can't go e5, I guess, because it's just bishop takes e5. So you don't want to do that. f6. Oh, right. Okay. What I missed is that in this position, we're threatening bishop e6. Okay. So if black tries to solve that problem with, say, rook fd8. Still bishop e5. Yeah. Okay. And that's it. Game over. Fair enough. Okay. I guess the lesson there, and it's an important lesson and it's very instructive, is that this was the moment to calculate. Right? And saw this line. Saw this line. And you know, it's not impossible, I guess, to think, okay, you know, this is a move, defend the rook, and have a threat, which is bishop d6. But also, you know, pin and win. You can't. All we have to do is bring one more piece to attack this knight before our opponent has a chance to, you know, get out of the pin. But there is no way out, and it's beautiful because the rook on b6 is preventing a natural sort of queen retreat, which might allow something. You know, it might allow a knight c6, unpinning with the defense. None of the unpin defend squares work. This queen pins a knight to another queen. That's a natural way to get out of it. Yeah, unpin and protect your queen. Neither of those squares work. It's clear that this knight cannot protect this knight, except after 2 moves. But black doesn't have 2 moves, right? Because this is a threat, and this is a threat. Right, so if you try this with the idea of knight f5, you just lose to bishop d6 straight away. Do you lose? I mean, yeah, right, because it's a whole piece. You move your queen, and we take this knight. We don't take the rook. Yet. Okay. Instructive and good to learn. Good to learn from that. Oh, it's a fun game. Fun game. Okay, well played. No, not bad. 2.5. 2.5. Long games as well. And, you know, it's France-Sweden in 12 minutes, so going to call it a day. But we'll see you next time, because it's every Tuesday at 7:30. And You know, if you want to feature on the stream and have a 4 or 5 or 6 game match, just get in touch. You know where I am. I'm at Full Ball Vision, and that will be fun. Until then, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Barry's Loose Leaf Classic Blend. Thank you very much. Yeah, keeps us going. And yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday at 7:30 on Full Ball Vision. Until then, have a good week. See you later.